Hi guys and welcome to Crazy Pepper Revenge. This channel is all about crazy true stories, stuff that happens in real life when things get a little bit messy.
The coffee was still steaming when my world ended. Derek gave me what you couldn't, Mara said, her lips curving into that smirk I once found charming. Now it looked like a knife blade catching light. I set my mug down carefully on our granite countertop, the one she'd insisted we needed to elevate our space. 3 years together, a mortgage, shared Netflix passwords, gone in one sentence delivered over breakfast like she was commenting on the weather. What you couldn't, she repeated, savoring each word like expensive wine. Her green eyes sparkled with something I'd never seen before. Cruelty, maybe, or just the intoxication of finally saying what she'd been thinking for months. I should have felt something. Rage, heartbreak, the crushing weight of betrayal. Instead, I felt nothing but a cold, crystalline clarity settling over me like fresh snow. My hands remained steady. My voice stayed level. Derek from your book club? I asked. Derek who owns 3 clubs downtown. Derek who drives a Porsche, not a Honda Civic. She leaned back in her chair, studying my face like a scientist observing a lab rat. Derek who doesn't spend Friday nights debugging code. The kitchen felt smaller suddenly, the morning light streaming through our bay window too bright. I could hear our neighbor Mrs. Patterson walking her dog, the familiar jingle of tags and her cooing voice. Normal sounds from a normal morning that had just become anything but normal. How long? The question slipped out before I could stop it. Does it matter? Mara shrugged, her silk blouse shifting across her shoulders. She'd dressed up today, full makeup, the expensive perfume I'd bought her for Christmas, like she was going somewhere important after destroying my life. I needed a real man, Jake. Someone who takes charge. Someone who doesn't ask permission to exist. There it was. The real knife, sliding between my ribs with surgical precision. My phone buzzed against the counter. A text from Marcus, my best friend since college. Coffee later? Need to talk. Another buzz. This time from Ryan. Dude, we should hang out soon. And another from Tom. Hey man, call me when you get a chance. I stared at the messages, understanding flooding through me like ice water. They already knew. Of course they knew. Mara had told them first, probably spun the story to make herself the victim and me the villain. The distant husband. The workaholic. The man who couldn't satisfy his woman's needs. You told them, I said. I told them the truth. Mara stood, smoothing her skirt with practiced movements. That I'm not happy, that I haven't been happy for a long time. That I deserve better than coming home to someone buried in his laptop every night. She moved toward the hallway, probably heading upstairs to pack. Or maybe she'd already packed. Maybe Derek was waiting outside in his Porsche, engine running, ready to whisk her away to whatever fantasy life she'd constructed in her head. The group chat's been pretty active, she added, pausing at the doorway. Everyone agrees I should follow my heart. Even Marcus thinks you've been neglecting me. Marcus, my best friend since freshman year at State. The guy I'd helped build his entire business infrastructure. The guy who knew every password to every system I'd ever created because I'd trusted him with root access to everything. My phone kept buzzing, the vultures circling, eager to pick clean the bones of my relationship. I reached for my car keys instead of my phone. They felt cold in my palm, the metal edges sharp against my fingers, real, solid, unlike everything else in my life that had just revealed itself to be an illusion. Where are you going? Mara's voice carried a note of uncertainty for the first time that morning. I looked at her, really looked. The woman I'd planned to propose to next month, the woman whose student loans I'd helped pay off, the woman who'd slept beside me for 3 years while planning her escape with Derek the club owner. Out, I said. That's it? That's all you have to say? She stepped back into the kitchen, her confidence wavering. Aren't you going to fight for me? Aren't you going to beg me to stay? I smiled, a real smile, probably the first genuine expression I'd worn in months. It felt good, like stretching after sitting too long. No, I said, and walked toward the garage. Behind me, I heard her sharp intake of breath, the sound of someone whose script had just been torn up. The garage door rumbled open, letting in the crisp October air. I backed out of the driveway slowly, deliberately, like I had all the time in the world. Through the rearview mirror, I saw Mara standing in the doorway, her perfect composure finally cracking. My phone buzzed again. 37 unread messages now. The group chat exploding with opinions about my life, my failures, my inadequacies as a boyfriend and as a man. What they didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Jake Morrison, software developer and apparently inadequate boyfriend, wasn't my whole story. Before I'd met Mara, before I'd moved to this quiet suburb and settled into domestic life, I'd spent 8 years in Army intelligence. 8 years building digital architectures, tracking financial networks, and documenting criminal enterprises for prosecution. 8 years learning that information was the most powerful tool in the world. And for the past 18 months, ever since I'd noticed the first signs of Mara's restlessness, I'd been collecting information. Call it paranoia. Call it professional habit. Call it the survival instinct of a man who'd learned not to trust anyone completely. Every text message, every email, every financial transaction, every late-night book club meeting and weekend girls trip, every wire transfer from Marcus's shell company to Derek's club accounts, every encrypted message discussing money laundering and cartel connections, everything documented, everything backed up, everything ready. I drove through our neighborhood of matching colonial houses and perfect lawns, past the coffee shop where Mara and I used to have Sunday brunch, past the park where we'd walked our dog before he died last spring. My phone continued buzzing. The count was up to 42 messages now. I pulled into a parking lot and finally looked at my phone. The group chat told the whole story. Marcus. Mara told us everything. We're here for you both, but honestly, Jake's been distant lately. Ryan. She deserves to be happy. You can't blame her for wanting more. Tom. Maybe this is a wake-up call, man. Relationships take work. Sarah, Marcus's girlfriend. I've seen how you two interact. Mara's been trying so hard. Even Jessica, who I'd considered a close friend. Sometimes people grow apart. No one's the villain here. No one's the villain. Except me, apparently. I scrolled through months of messages I'd missed. Conversations that had happened while I was working late or sleeping. Conversations about my relationship. My shortcomings. My failure to appreciate what I had. They'd been dissecting my life like a biology class frog, and I'd never even known. The last message was from Marcus, sent 10 minutes ago. Dude, where are you? Mara's worried. We all are. Let's talk this through like adults. Like adults, right. I turned off my phone and drove home. The house felt different when I returned. Emptier, though nothing had been moved yet. Mara's car was gone from the driveway. Probably at Derek's, crying into his expensive cologne, while he whispered reassurances about how she deserved better. I went straight to my office, the spare bedroom I'd converted into my workspace. 3 monitors, 2 laptops, and a desktop I'd built myself, my sanctuary. The place where I'd spent all those evenings that Mara had complained about. The place where she'd accused me of hiding from real life. She wasn't wrong about the hiding part, but she'd misunderstood what I was hiding from. I powered up my systems and cracked my knuckles. Time to go to work. The first thing I pulled up was Marcus's business structure, Innovative Solutions, LLC, the company I'd helped him incorporate 3 years ago. I designed their entire digital infrastructure, set up their banking systems, created their client management software. I had administrative access to everything because Marcus had insisted he didn't want to deal with technical stuff. Innovative Solutions was supposed to be a marketing consultancy. On paper, they had 12 clients, mostly small businesses looking to improve their online presence. The revenue stream looked legitimate. Monthly retainers, project payments, the usual consulting income. But I'd been watching the real money flow for months. The legitimate clients generated maybe $40,000 a year in actual revenue. The company's books showed $300,000 in annual income. The difference came from 3 sources. Derek's nightclub empire, a construction company owned by Derek's brother-in-law, and a chain of massage parlors that definitely weren't just offering therapeutic services. Money went in dirty, got mixed with legitimate consulting fees, and came out clean. Marcus took a 10% cut for providing the service. Mara's wellness brand, Essential Harmony LLC, another company I'd helped set up, served as a secondary wash for the smaller transactions. My girlfriend had been laundering pills money through her yoga and meditation blog. The irony was almost beautiful. I pulled up 18 months of financial records, encrypted communications, and transaction logs. Every wire transfer, every cash deposit. Every time Derek's people had used Marcus's accounts to clean their profits from whatever they were really selling in those clubs. The communications were even better. Marcus and Derek used an encrypted messaging app that they thought was secure. It was for most people. But I'd installed a keylogger on Marcus's laptop months ago, back when I'd first noticed some irregularities in his business income. The keylogger captured every password, every message, every login credential. I had everything. Chat logs discussing pickup schedules, arguments about percentages, complaints about the product quality and distribution issues, references to the Mexicans who supplied Derek's operation and the Russians who provided muscle when needed. These weren't just unfaithful friends, they were criminals, and they'd been using my technical expertise to build their money laundering infrastructure. My phone, still turned off, sat silent on my desk. I could imagine the messages piling up, the concerned texts, the attempts at intervention, the growing frustration as I failed to respond to their attempts to manage the situation. They thought they were dealing with Jake, the software developer, Jake, the quiet boyfriend, Jake, the guy who'd just roll over and accept whatever scraps of sympathy they decided to throw him. They had no idea who they were really dealing with. I spent the next 4 hours organizing everything into a comprehensive package. Financial records cross-referenced with communication logs. Transaction patterns mapped against known criminal enterprises. A complete organizational chart showing how money flowed from street sales through Derek's clubs and into Marcus's consulting business. The kind of package that federal prosecutors dreamed about. The kind of evidence that turned white-collar criminals into cooperating witnesses and sent pills dealers to federal prison. At 2 a.m., I encrypted everything and uploaded it to a secure server. Then, I began crafting my anonymous tips. The FBI's Financial Crimes Division received a detailed breakdown of the money laundering operation, complete with bank routing numbers and transaction dates. The DEA got information about Derek's supply chain and distribution network. The IRS received documentation of unreported income and tax evasion going back 3 years. I sent copies to the local police, the state attorney general's office, and 2 investigative journalists who specialized in organized crime stories. Each tip came from a different anonymous email account, routed through different VPN servers, sent at different times to avoid any appearance of coordination. To law enforcement, it would look like multiple sources had simultaneously decided to expose the same criminal network. By 3 a.m., I'd sent everything. The digital bombs were in the air, flying toward their targets. I made coffee and sat in my kitchen looking out at the same view where my relationship had ended 12 hours earlier. The granite countertop felt cold under my palms. Outside, the neighborhood slept peacefully, unaware that several of their residents were about to have very bad mornings. My phone buzzed. I turned it back on to monitor news feeds and law enforcement databases. 47 unread messages now. The group chat had evolved from concern to irritation to genuine worry. Marcus, 2 hours ago. Seriously, where the heck are you? This isn't like you. Ryan, maybe he's having a breakdown. Should we call someone? Sarah, I'm starting to worry. What if he hurt himself? Mara, he's being dramatic. Give him space to process. Tom, dude, just text us back, one word. Let us know you're okay. I almost laughed. In 6 hours, Marcus would be in federal custody. Derek would be explaining his business model to DEA agents. Mara would be watching her wellness brand collapse as the IRS froze every account connected to the investigation. And they were worried about me having a breakdown. I opened a new message in the group chat and typed, "I'm fine, just needed some air. Talk tomorrow." The response was immediate. Relief, irritation, and a dozen variations of "thank God you're okay" flooded my phone. Marcus, don't scare us like that, man. We're all here for you. Right, they were all here for me. Just like they'd been here for me when they'd spent months discussing my relationship problems behind my back. Just like they'd been here for me when they'd unanimously decided that my girlfriend cheating was somehow my fault. I finished my coffee and went to bed. Tomorrow was going to be a very interesting day. The last thing I did before closing my eyes was check my secure email. 3 confirmations had already come back. The FBI had received my package and forwarded it to the appropriate field office. The DEA had opened a case file. The IRS had flagged all associated accounts for immediate audit. The dominoes were falling. I woke up at 6 a.m. to the sound of sirens. 3 black SUVs were parked outside Marcus's house, 2 doors down from mine. Federal agents and windbreakers were carrying boxes out of his front door while his neighbors gathered on their lawns in bathrobes and pajamas, whispering and pointing like they were watching a movie being filmed. Marcus stood on his porch in handcuffs, his face pale and confused. Sarah was crying, her hands pressed against her mouth. One of the agents was reading from a folder, probably a search warrant, though I couldn't hear the words from my bedroom window. My phone had been buzzing constantly for the past hour. 63 unread messages. The group chat was in complete chaos. Ryan, what the heck is happening? Tom, are those FBI agents? Jessica, someone call a lawyer. Sarah, they won't tell me anything. They just took him. Mara, this has to be a mistake. Marcus doesn't do anything illegal. I made coffee and watched the show. By 7 a.m., the agents were loading the last boxes into their vehicles. Marcus was already gone, driven away in one of the SUVs. Sarah stood alone in their doorway, still in her pajamas, looking lost. The news vans arrived 20 minutes later. I showered, dressed, and drove to work like it was any other Thursday. My office was downtown, only 15 minutes from Derek's main club. I took a slight detour on my way in. The Platinum Lounge was surrounded by police tape. More black SUVs, more agents and windbreakers. The neon signs were dark, and a handwritten notice on the front door announced that the establishment was temporarily closed for renovations. Derek's Porsche was nowhere to be seen. At my office, I settled into my cubicle and opened my laptop. The secure news feeds I monitored were already buzzing with activity. Multi-state money laundering investigation yields arrests. Federal agents raid local nightclub. Financial crimes task force breaks up organized criminal network. No names yet. That would come later after the arraignments. But I knew the timeline. Marcus and Derek would be processed, booked, and assigned public defenders. They'd spend the day in federal holding cells, trying to figure out how their carefully hidden operation had suddenly been exposed. My phone continued buzzing. The group chat had fractured into smaller conversations as people tried to make sense of what was happening. Tom had started a separate chat without Sarah. Do you think Marcus was actually involved in something? Ryan, no way. This has to be mistaken identity or something. Jessica, but why would the FBI raid his house if they didn't have evidence? Mara had texted me directly, Jake, I know we're going through stuff, but Marcus needs our support right now. Can we put our problems aside? I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I spent my lunch break visiting Mara's apartment, the place she'd moved to 6 months ago when she'd decided we needed space to grow individually. It was in a trendy complex downtown, the kind of place with a doorman and a rooftop pool. The doorman, Carlos, knew me. I'd helped Mara move in, had been there dozens of times for dinner and movie nights back when we'd still been trying to make things work. She's not here, he said when I asked. Left early this morning with some guy in a fancy car. Looked upset. Did she say when she'd be back? Carlos shrugged. She gave me this. He handed me a sealed envelope with my name on it. Inside was a key to her apartment and a note. Jake, I'm staying with Derek for a few days while we figure things out. Can you water my plants and get my mail? I know this is awkward, but you're the only person I trust with my space. We'll talk soon. M. The only person she trusted with her space. The irony was suffocating. I went up to her apartment. Our old apartment, technically, since my name was still on the lease. Mara had redecorated since I'd moved out. New furniture, new art, new everything. Like she'd been erasing every trace of our relationship. Preparing for her new life with Derek, her laptop was on the kitchen counter, still open to her Essential Harmony website, the wellness blog that had been laundering pills money through meditation retreat bookings and overpriced essential oil sales. I didn't touch the computer. I didn't need to. I already had everything I needed. But I did water her plants. And I did collect her mail. The mail was interesting. 3 envelopes from her bank, probably overdraft notices. 2 from credit card companies. 1 from the IRS. That had arrived fast, even by federal standards. I left everything on her counter and went back to work. The afternoon brought more news. Derek's arrest had been confirmed. The DEA had seized 4 of his properties and frozen his business accounts. The local news was running stories about a sophisticated money laundering operation that used local businesses to clean pills profits. My phone was up to 97 unread messages. The group chat had evolved again. Denial was giving way to anger. Ryan, this is insane. Marcus wouldn't hurt a fly. Tom, there has to be more to this story. Jessica, what if someone set him up? Sarah had rejoined the chat. The lawyer says they have financial records going back 3 years. Bank statements, emails, everything. Mara, how is that possible? Marcus is careful about his business. Sarah, that's what I don't understand. How did they get so much information? I almost smiled. Sarah was asking the right question, but she was asking it in the wrong place. At 5 p.m., I left work and drove to the federal courthouse. The arraignment hearings were public record, and I wanted to see how Marcus and Derek handled their first appearance before a judge. Marcus looked smaller in his orange jumpsuit, younger somehow, like the weight of his situation had stripped away the confidence he'd worn for the past 3 years. His public defender was a tired-looking woman in her 50s who kept shuffling through papers and whispering urgently in his ear. Derek, on the other hand, looked angry. He kept glancing around the courtroom like he was looking for someone specific. His lawyer was better dressed, probably private counsel, but even he looked concerned as the prosecutor read the charges. Money laundering, racketeering, conspiracy to distribute controlled substances, tax evasion. The prosecutor requested remand, citing flight risk and the ongoing investigation. Both men would remain in federal custody until trial. Marcus's eyes swept the gallery and found mine. For a moment, we stared at each other across the courtroom. I saw recognition flicker across his face, followed by something else. Confusion, maybe, or the beginning of suspicion. I nodded slightly, the kind of acknowledgement you'd give to an old friend in an awkward situation. Then I left. My phone was buzzing again when I got to my car. A direct message from Marcus's number, but it wasn't from Marcus. Sarah. Jake, this is Sarah using Marcus's phone. Can you call me? I need to ask you something. I deleted the message without responding. The evening news was wall-to-wall coverage of the raids. Local businessmen arrested in federal money laundering sting. Nightclub owner accused of pills trafficking conspiracy. Financial crimes investigation exposes suburban criminal network. They had photos of Marcus being led away in handcuffs. Video of Derek's clubs being searched. Interviews with neighbors who never suspected anything and always thought they were such nice young men. The reporter standing outside Marcus's house was the same one who'd covered the city council elections last year. She looked excited, like this was the kind of story that could make her career. Federal agents tell us this investigation began with anonymous tips from multiple sources, she said into the camera. Someone with inside knowledge of this operation decided to come forward, and tonight, 2 men are in federal custody as a result. Multiple sources. I like that touch. My phone buzzed with message number 112. Mara. Jake, I need to see you. Something's wrong with my bank accounts. I turned off my phone and went to bed early. Tomorrow would bring new developments, new chaos, new opportunities to watch my old life burn down around the people who'd betrayed me. But tonight I slept better than I had in months. I woke up to silence. No sirens, no news vans, no buzzing phone, just the quiet hum of my coffee maker and the distant sound of Mrs. Patterson walking her dog. When I finally turned on my phone, I had 127 unread messages. The group chat had exploded overnight as the reality of the situation settled in. Sarah, they're saying Marcus might get 20 years. Tom, this can't be real. This has to be some kind of nightmare. Ryan, how did we not know? How did none of us see this? Jessica, maybe we didn't want to see it. Mara had sent me a dozen direct messages, each one more desperate than the last. Jake, my accounts are frozen. All of them. The bank says there's a federal hold on my business. I can't access any of my money. Derek's not answering his phone. I need your help. Please call me. Jake, I'm scared. I made coffee and read through everything twice. The group dynamic was fascinating to watch. Denial was crumbling into finger-pointing. Old resentments were surfacing. The stress was revealing who these people really were underneath their carefully maintained friendships. Ryan, I always thought Marcus was too flashy with money. Remember that vacation to Cabo? Tom, and Derek with those cars. Nobody makes that much from nightclubs. Jessica, what about Mara's business? Didn't she just buy that expensive equipment? So, are you seriously blaming the victims here? Ryan, I'm just saying there were signs. Tom, signs we all ignored. The vultures were circling each other now. I drove to work through the same neighborhood where federal agents had been loading boxes 24 hours earlier. Marcus's house looked abandoned. The windows were dark, and newspapers were piling up on the front porch. Sarah's car was gone from the driveway. At the office, I settled into my routine. Check emails, review project timelines, attend the morning staff meeting. Normal work stuff while my former friends' lives collapsed in real time. My boss, Linda, mentioned the arrests during our team stand-up. "Did you know those guys?" she asked. "The news said one of them lived in your neighborhood." "I knew Marcus," I said. "We were friends. I'm pretty shocked by all this." "It's always the ones you least suspect," she replied, shaking her head. "Makes you wonder who you can really trust." Indeed. During lunch, I drove to Mara's apartment building. Carlos, the doorman, looked relieved to see me. "Your girlfriend's been calling all morning," he said. "She wants to come back, but there are federal agents upstairs. They're searching her place." Through the lobby windows, I could see another black SUV parked outside, more agents and windbreakers, more boxes being loaded. "Did she say where she was staying?" I asked. "Some hotel downtown. She sounded pretty upset." I thanked Carlos and left. Mara's world was shrinking by the hour. Her apartment searched, her accounts frozen, her wealthy boyfriend in federal custody. She was running out of options, running out of people to call. Soon, she'd have nowhere left to turn except back to me. My phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. "Jake, it's me." Mara's voice was strained, exhausted. "I'm using a friend's phone because mine got disconnected. I need to see you. I know we're going through stuff, but I don't have anyone else. Derek's lawyer won't talk to me. Marcus's lawyer won't talk to me. The FBI won't tell me anything. Please, call me back. I'm at the Marriott downtown, room 412. I deleted the voicemail and went back to work. The afternoon brought more news. The investigation was expanding. Federal agents had raided Derek's other properties. A restaurant, a car dealership, construction company. The money laundering network was bigger than anyone had initially realized. The local news was having a field day. Criminal enterprise used dozens of local businesses. Federal investigation uncovers multi-million-dollar conspiracy. More arrests expected as probe continues. My phone kept buzzing. The group chat was in full meltdown mode. "Sarah, they searched our house again. Took Marcus's computers, his files, everything. Tom, what if they come for us next? What if they think we knew?" Ryan, "We didn't know anything. How could we know?" Jessica, "But we were all friends. We hung out together. Won't that look suspicious?" The paranoia was setting in. They were starting to realize that association with Marcus and Derek might have consequences for all of them. Mara had joined the chat from whatever phone she was using. "Has anyone heard from Jake? I can't reach him." Tom, "He's probably freaking out like the rest of us." Ryan, "This whole situation is insane." Sarah, "The lawyer says they have informants. Someone gave them everything." Jessica, "Who would do that? Who had access to Marcus's business?" There was a long pause in the chat. I could almost see them thinking, remembering, connecting dots. Sarah, "Jake helped Marcus set up his company." Tom, "Jake did all their computer stuff." Ryan, "Jake had access to everything." The accusation hung in the digital air like smoke. Mara, "That's ridiculous. Jake wouldn't do something like that." Jessica, "Wouldn't he? His girlfriend just left him for another guy." Tom, "And we all sided with Mara." Ryan, "Heck hath no fury like a software developer scorned." Sarah, "Oh my God. You think Jake turned them in?" I almost applauded. They'd figured it out faster than I'd expected. Mara, No way. Jake's not vindictive like that." Tom, "Isn't he? Remember what he did to that guy in college who stole his project?" Ryan, "What did he do?" Tom, "Got the guy expelled, completely destroyed academic career." Jessica, "That was different. That was cheating. So is this." The chat went quiet for several minutes. I could imagine them staring at their phones, processing the implications. Finally, Mara typed, "I need to talk to him." Ryan, "Good luck. He's not answering anyone." Tom, "If Jake really did this, we're all screwed." Sarah, "Why would we be screwed? We didn't do anything wrong." Jessica, "We were friends with criminals. We socialized with them. We vouched for them." Ryan, "The FBI is going to want to interview all of us." Tom, "What if they think we were involved?" The paranoia was becoming panic. They were turning on each other, questioning every interaction, every shared meal, every group vacation. The bonds that had held their social circle together were dissolving in real time. I turned off my phone and drove home. The evening news had more details about the investigation. The reporter standing outside Derek's main club looked tired but excited. "Sources tell us that federal agents received detailed financial records from an anonymous tipster," she said. "Someone with inside knowledge of this criminal network provided investigators with everything they needed to build their case." The camera cut to footage of Marcus being led into the courthouse in shackles. Then Derek, flanked by federal marshals. Then shots of the various businesses being searched and sealed. Both men have been denied bail, the reporter continued. Prosecutors say they have overwhelming evidence of a conspiracy that laundered millions of dollars in pills proceeds through legitimate businesses. My phone, still turned off, sat silent on my coffee table. I could imagine the messages piling up. The accusations, the demands for answers, the growing certainty that I was responsible for their nightmare. They were right, of course, but they'd never be able to prove it. I made dinner and ate in peaceful silence, watching the sun set over the neighborhood where I'd once thought I'd build a life with Mara. Tomorrow would bring new developments. More arrests, probably. More searches, more questions. And eventually Mara would have nowhere left to run except back to the man she'd betrayed. I was looking forward to that conversation. My phone had been off for 18 hours when I finally turned it back on Friday morning. 203 unread messages. The group chat had descended into complete chaos. The accusations started around midnight. Sarah, Jake set them up. I'm sure of it now. Tom, he had access to everything. Marcus trusted him completely. Ryan, this is revenge for Mara leaving him. Jessica, we need to confront him. Mara had been defending me at first. Jake wouldn't destroy people's lives over a breakup. But by 3 a.m., even she was wavering. Where is he? Why won't he answer? And by dawn, oh God, what if they're right? The latest messages were planning a confrontation. They'd decided to come to my house, demand answers, force me to explain myself. Like an angry mob with smartphones instead of torches. I made coffee and waited. They arrived at 9 a.m. 5 cars pulling into my driveway and parking along the street. Sarah and Tom and Ryan and Jessica, plus 3 people I barely recognized. Friends of friends, drawn by drama and the promise of witnessing a confrontation. Mara wasn't with them. Interesting. I opened the door before they could knock. Morning, I said pleasantly. Coffee? Sarah stepped forward, her face flushed with anger and exhaustion. She'd been crying, her eyes were red and swollen, her makeup smeared. You son of a witch, she said. You destroyed my life. I'm sorry you're going through this, I replied. Marcus's arrest must be very difficult for you. Don't, Tom pushed past Sarah, getting in my face. Don't pretend you don't know what you did. I stepped back, letting them crowd into my entryway. 8 people in my small foyer, all staring at me with varying degrees of hatred and suspicion. I'm not sure what you're accusing me of, I said. Cut the crap, Jake. Ryan's voice was shaking with rage. We know you turned them in. Turned who in for what? Jessica laughed bitterly. Money laundering, pills trafficking, the federal charges that are going to send Marcus to prison for 20 years. That's terrible, I said. I had no idea Marcus was involved in anything illegal. Bees. Sarah was crying again. You had access to everything, his computers, his accounts, his business records. I helped him set up some basic systems, I acknowledged, but I wasn't involved in his day-to-day operations. The FBI has everything, Tom said. Financial records, communications, transaction logs, everything you would have had access to. I shrugged. Maybe Marcus wasn't as careful as he thought. Or maybe his best friend sold him out for revenge. Ryan stepped closer. Because his girlfriend left him for a real man. The room went silent. Even the hangers-on seemed to sense they'd crossed a line. I smiled, the same smile I'd given Mara 2 days ago in our kitchen. Is that what you think happened? I asked quietly. We know what happened, Sarah said. Marcus trusted you. He gave you access to everything because he thought you were his friend. I was his friend. Friends don't destroy each other's lives. No, I agreed. They don't. Friends also don't spend months talking behind each other's backs. Friends don't unanimously decide that their friend's girlfriend cheating is somehow his fault. Friends don't choose sides without hearing both stories. The room shifted uncomfortably. They knew I was right. That's different, Jessica said weakly. Is it? You all knew Mara was unhappy. You all knew she was spending time with Derek, but instead of talking to me, you talked about me. Instead of supporting our relationship, you supported her decision to end it. We were trying to help, Tom protested. Help who? Help Mara feel better about cheating? Help yourselves feel superior to the guy who worked too much and didn't appreciate what he had? Sarah wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. That doesn't justify what you did to Marcus. What exactly do you think I did? You gave the FBI everything. Financial records, communications, business documents. Did I? Do you have proof of that? The silence stretched out. They had suspicions, theories, circumstantial evidence. but no proof. The timing, Ryan said finally. Marcus gets arrested 2 days after Mara leaves you. That's not a coincidence. You're right, I said. It's not a coincidence. It's karma. Karma? Sarah's voice cracked. My fiancé is in federal prison. Your fiancé was laundering pills money. That's not my fault. You turned him in. Prove it. Another long silence. They couldn't prove it, and we all knew it. Where's Mara? I asked. Jessica hesitated. She's dealing with her own problems right now. Her accounts are frozen, Tom added. Her business is under investigation. That's unfortunate. I hope she gets through it okay. Do you? Sarah stepped closer. Do you really? Or are you enjoying watching all of us suffer? I looked at each of them in turn. These people who'd been my friends for years, who'd shared holidays and birthdays and weekend trips, who'd known every detail of my relationship and had chosen to support the woman who'd betrayed me rather than the man they'd claimed to care about. I'm not enjoying your suffering, I said finally, but I'm not losing sleep over it either. You're a monster, Sarah whispered. No, I'm just done being everyone's doormat. They left without another word, filing out of my house like mourners leaving a funeral. Through my window, I watched them huddle in my driveway, arguing and gesturing, probably debating whether to go to the police, whether to hire lawyers, whether there was any way to prove what they all knew to be true. There wasn't. My phone buzzed with a new message from an unknown number. Jake, it's Mara. I need to see you, please. I deleted the message and went back to my coffee. The afternoon brought more news. Derek's brother-in-law had been arrested. 2 more businesses had been raided. The investigation was expanding faster than anyone had anticipated. The local news was calling it the biggest organized crime bust in the city's history. Federal prosecutors were talking about RICO charges, asset forfeiture, decades in prison. My phone kept buzzing with messages from unknown numbers. Mara. Trying different phones, different approaches. I know you're angry, but we need to talk. I'm sorry about how things ended. I never meant to hurt you. Please don't let your anger destroy innocent people. Innocent people. That was rich. At 6 p.m., there was a knock on my door. I looked through the peephole and saw Mara standing on my porch alone. She looked terrible. Unwashed hair, wrinkled clothes, the kind of exhaustion that comes from not sleeping for days. I opened the door. Hello, Mara. Can I come in, please? I stepped aside and let her enter. She moved like a ghost, her usual confidence completely gone. You look tired, I observed. I haven't slept since Wednesday. She sat on my couch, our old couch, the one we'd picked out together. My whole life is falling apart. I'm sorry to hear that. She looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. Did you do this? Did you destroy Marcus and Derek to get back at me? What do you think? I think the man I lived with for 3 years wouldn't ruin innocent people's lives over a breakup. Innocent people? Marcus never hurt you. Sarah never hurt you. They don't deserve this. I sat down across from her, studying her face. She was scared, desperate, completely out of options. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. Marcus was laundering pills money, I said quietly. Derek was trafficking white powder and harder substances. Sarah knew about it. She helped manage the books. They weren't innocent. You can't prove that. The FBI can. They have 3 years of evidence. Evidence you gave them. Evidence they obtained through their investigation. She started crying, quiet, exhausted sobs that shook her whole body. Why? She whispered. Why would you do this to us? You betrayed me, all of you. You made me the villain in my own life. So you decided to become one? I considered that. Maybe, or maybe I just decided to stop being the victim. She looked up at me through her tears. I loved you, Jake. I really did. No, you didn't. You loved the idea of me. The stable boyfriend, the reliable provider, the man who'd always be there to clean up your messes. But you never loved me. That's not true. Then why did you cheat? Because, she struggled for words, because I felt trapped. Because I wanted something more exciting. And now you have it. Derek's very exciting, I'm sure. Federal prison is full of excitement. He's not a bad person, he just made some mistakes. Trafficking pills isn't a mistake, Mara. It's a choice. Just like cheating on me was a choice. She wiped her eyes with her sleeve. What happens now? Do I go to prison too? I don't know. That depends on how much you knew about Derek's business. I didn't know anything. Your wellness company was processing payments for his operation. Your bank accounts show suspicious transactions going back 18 months. Her face went pale. I thought those were legitimate clients. Were they? Or did you just not ask questions because the money was good? She didn't answer. The FBI will figure it out, I continued. They're very thorough. They'll trace every transaction, interview every associate, examine every relationship. If you're innocent, you'll probably be fine. And if I'm not, then you'll join Derek and Marcus in federal custody. She stared at me for a long moment. You're enjoying this. A little, I admitted. Is that wrong? It's cruel. So, was cheating on me. So, was turning all our friends against me. So, was making me feel like I was crazy for being upset about your affair. I never said you were crazy. You said I was distant, neglectful, a bad boyfriend who didn't deserve your loyalty. Maybe you were those things. Maybe, but I wasn't a criminal. She stood up, smoothing her wrinkled dress. I should go. Where will you go? Your apartment's been searched, your accounts are frozen, and your boyfriend's in federal custody. I'll figure something out. Will you? Because it seems like you're running out of options. She walked to the door, then turned back. I'm sorry, Jake, for all of it. I'm sorry I hurt you. I know you are. You're sorry you got caught. That's not what I meant. It's what you meant. She opened the door and stepped onto the porch. Goodbye, Jake. Goodbye, Mara. I watched her walk to her car. Derek's car, actually, a BMW he'd probably bought with pills money. She sat in the driver's seat for several minutes, probably trying to decide where to go, who to call, what to do next. Finally, she drove away. I closed the door and went back to my coffee, and outside, the neighborhood was quiet. Normal families having normal Friday evenings, unaware that their quiet suburb had been the center of a federal investigation. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This isn't over. I smiled and turned off the phone. It was over. They just didn't know it yet.